Chapter 1458. Needless to say, they were at their peak condition. Many of the strong practitioners present had already reached a certain age. Even if they were to attempt to break through to a new realm, it would still be incomparable to when they were in their prime. In addition to the influence of the heavy illness in their bodies, it was almost impossible for them to successfully break through to a new realm. Not to mention others, just the Ouyang family head and the rest had been stagnant for many years. But now, the 10 bottles of pills that Luo Qingtong had taken out had perfectly solved this problem. If there were no accidents, as long as Hu Zhongtian and the rest's realms had reached a level where they could break through, they would be able to borrow the power of these pills to fiercely raise their powers by another level. It could be seen how powerful and precious these pills were. The crowd looked at the pill bottles in Hu Zhongtian's hands with burning gazes. Yi Jiu actually had such miraculous pills in his hands. This was simply too tempting. Even that Chief Steward Cheng's gaze towards Luo Qingtong also changed slightly. Other than having a relationship with Yu Sihuang, the king of the southern mountain range, this young man actually had a relationship with the Blackfield's evil Dr. Gui Tong. Just like these pills that the other party had taken out, it was almost impossible for outsiders to obtain them. Yet Luo Qingtong had taken out 10 bottles with just a lift of her hand. The other party's relationship with that evil Dr. Gui Tong was definitely not shallow. They didn't know what her identity was. Even with their Dark Colors Arena's ability, they actually couldn't find out anything about her background. So, when Luo Qingtong had brought that guest token to their doorstep, the Dark Colors Arena had already sent people to investigate her identity. However, they couldn't find out anything. The young man's identity, whether it was the people from family Hu or those from the southern mountain range, they couldn't find out anything. And Hu Yannyang, Yu Sihuang, and the rest who seemed to know Luo Qingtong's identity, didn't mention a single word. The people from the Dark Colors Arena couldn't do anything at that moment. The young man seemed to have suddenly appeared from this world. Originally, Chief Steward Qing had suspected that Luo Qingtong's medical skills were extraordinary, and she was also a youth. Could she be the evil Dr. Ghostai from the Black Field? But at this moment, Luo Qingtong took out those 10 bottles of medicinal pills. Her open and above-board action dispelled the doubts in his heart. If the other party was the evil Dr. Ghostai, he would not have done something so obvious and exposed his identity. After all, that evil Dr. Ghostai's medicinal pill was not so easy to obtain. The people from the Dark Colors Arena had also sent people to request for medicinal pills. They had to queue for several months before it was their turn. However, the other party's medical skills were indeed very high. Disregarding everything else, just the pills refined by evil Dr. Gui Tong were all perfect grade pills. As long as the medicinal herbs were sufficient, the medicinal strength of the pills refined by the other party would definitely be the highest. There was almost no loss of medicinal properties. No one knew how she did it. But ever since they had seen the pills refined by her, the people from the Dark Colors Arena no longer doubted the other party's pill refining ability. At the very least, the pills that the Dark Colors Arena customized, even if it was refined by a pill master, would not contain more than 60% of the medicinal strength. The first time they had asked evil Dr. Ghostai to help refine pills, they were already shocked by the level of the pills refined by the other party. But it was a pity that it was too difficult to ask the other party for help. Chapter 1459. Up until now, no one knew just what her status was. Otherwise, she feared that this would set off an extremely powerful shock throughout the entire Sky Spill continent. Even where they were, the revelation of the other party's identity would cause a great commotion. After all, there were already many people who had begun to notice her. Ninth Young Master and evil Dr. Ghostai are friends? Chief Steward Qing asked as he tapped his finger on the table. I guess so. Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent. She raised her hand and handed 2 bottles of pills to Chief Steward Qing. These 2 bottles of pills have the same medicinal effect as the previous 10 bottles. Many thanks to the dark color arena for helping us this time. When family who starts to take over the 80% of the business, I hope that the dark color arena will do its best. Luo Qingtong was well aware that the guest elder token could only allow the dark color arena to help for free once. She had no intention of using the dark color arena to exchange for a second chance. Naturally, she could only start with Chief Steward Qing. As long as the other party agreed to help family who, then she would not need to use a second chance. Haha. Chief Steward Qing was well aware of this. However, Evil Dr. Ghost Eye's pills were too priceless and extremely rare. Moreover, the effects of the pills that Luo Qingtong took out were something that even he coveted. Immediately, he did not decline and directly kept the 2 bottles of pills. Ninth young master is overthinking. You are our dark color arena's honored guest. Your matter is our dark color arena's matter. We will do our best. By saying this, he had already agreed to Luo Qingtong's request to help family who. As Chief Steward Qing said this, his fierce eyes swept over everyone present. Finally, he fixed his gaze on the Huo family head and the others. Huo family head, don't you think so? Chief Steward Chang's words were full of threat. The Huo family head and the others had ugly expressions. Especially the Huo family head. As he watched Hu Zhongtian and the others receive the property deed from Luo Qingtong, his heart was bleeding. At the same time, he felt ashamed and humiliated. After all, everyone knew how much he had looked down on family who. Now, more than half of the Huo family's property had fallen into Hu Zhongtian's hands. Not only that, but family who had also received the pills bestowed by Luo Qingtong. Just with those 10 bottles of pills, Hu Zhongtian and the others' strength could rise to the next level. Don't underestimate the strength of this level. At their level of strength and age, it was extremely difficult to advance even a single step. Hu Zhongtian and the others obtaining these pills was equivalent to obtaining a chance to improve their strength for free. The Huo family head's eyes read. There was an unspeakable gloominess in his heart. When he heard Chief Steward Chang's words, he felt his heart. That feeling of wanting to vomit blood viciously tortured him, causing his mouth to be filled with the taste of rust. As the head of a top family clan, the Huo family head had not suffered such a loss for a very, very long time. Not to mention the fact that he was suffering in silence, unable to voice out his bitterness. Yes. He forcefully squeezed out a word from between his teeth in response to Chief Steward Chang's words. If not for the fact that he still wanted to kill Luo Qingtong, he would have vomited blood and collapsed to the ground. Collect. Let family who collect as much as they wanted. Wait until they entered the Saint King's tomb and killed Yi Zhou. Chapter 1460. The Huo family head was furious as he forcefully swallowed the taste of rust in his mouth. After receiving the Huo family head's response, Chief Steward Qing nodded in satisfaction and then looked at Luo Qingtong. His gaze was very obvious. He was telling Luo Qingtong that he would definitely do what she asked him to do properly. The Huo family head forcefully swallowed his anger. On the other side, the Ouyang family head was also feeling very uncomfortable. He looked at the 10 bottles of elixirs that Luo Qingtong took out with red eyes and an indescribable gloominess in his heart. Damn it, if they had known that Yi Zhou and the evil Dr. Gui Tong were old friends and could take out such precious elixirs, why would the Ouyang family offend the other party so early on for the sake of the sage doctor? Previously, they thought that offending Luo Qingtong for Feng Wan wasn't a big deal. But at this moment, looking at the various benefits that the family who people received and thinking about the shame that he and the Huo family had suffered, the Ouyang family had gritted his teeth in his heart. Even Feng Wan's medical skills, which he had previously taken a fancy to, were somewhat lacking compared to the few bottles of elixirs that Luo Qingtong took out. The 2 words, sage doctor, were really ironic. In front of the elixirs that Luo Qingtong took out, how could Feng Wan be worthy of the 2 words, sage doctor? The Ouyang family head's heart was stuffy and his heart was filled with anger and displeasure towards Feng Wuan. If it weren't for him, how could he have become enemies with Yi Zhou again and again? There wasn't even any room for reconciliation now. Otherwise, even if they couldn't obtain these elixirs from the other party, they could at least exchange for them with other things. Disregarding everything else, didn't Yi Zhou want to support the family who with his businesses in Wilderness City? They could also take out some of their businesses to exchange for those elixirs. However, this opportunity was completely ruined by Feng Wuan. Even if they took out their businesses, Yi Zhou might not sell them. He was not the only one who thought so. Even the patriarchs of the other top clans had the same thought. They looked at the medicinal pills in Hu Zhongtian and Chief Steward Chang's hands with envy. However, they had just offended Luo Qingtong. It wasn't easy for the other party to let them off. They simply couldn't open their mouths to ask the other party to buy these medicinal pills. After all, this was different from Luo Qingtong letting them off. Luo Qingtong had let them off before mostly because she wanted to take advantage of the Huo family. After the auction of the sage monarch's tomb, they were more or less aware of the situation. Therefore, he naturally knew that Luo Qingtong would not sell those medicinal pills to them unless something unexpected happened. As the crowd thought of this, they suddenly felt an indescribable sense of regret in their hearts. Their gazes towards the Huo family head and the Huo family became even more unfriendly. It was all because of the Huo family that they had such a deep grudge with Yi Zhou. They had missed such an opportunity to obtain the medicinal pill. Not only that, but the Huo clan had also snatched the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb. They worked so hard, but other than offending Luo Qingtong, they didn't get anything else. What a good Huo family head. You Huo family people, just you wait. The top clans looked angrily at the Huo family head and the others. The pitiful Huo family head and the others had snatched the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb, but they had offended a bunch of people. Luo Qingtong had only given one gift to the family whose people and Chief Steward Qing, but she had already created enough hatred for the Huo family head and Feng Wuan. Yu Sihuang watched from the side. The light in his eyes flickered slightly. Chapter 1461. This kind of scheming, this kind of means, it was the style of a matriarch. Not to mention that Luo Qingtong had both strength and ability. Yu Xingqi thought for a long time and felt that it was too difficult to find a woman who was comparable to Luo Qingtong and make his brother give up. In this world, who else could be like Luo Qingtong, calm and domineering, scheming but not deep, with many means but extraordinary ability. Yu Xingqi felt that it would be easier to help Yu Sihuang chase Luo Qingtong. Humph. Yu Sihuang coldly snorted and glanced at her with his charming eyes. He didn't know who was the one who gave him all kinds of blows in the past, telling him to quickly give up and find someone else. Yu Xingqi stuck out his tongue and didn't speak. While the brother and sister were whispering, Luo Qingtong had already looked at the Ouyang family head who was sitting on the main seat in front of them with a gloomy and ugly expression. She said, "Ouyang family head, please continue with the Saint Monarch's tomb conference." Luo Qingtong's voice sounded, and everyone was shocked to realize that they were still participating in the Saint Monarch's tomb conference. It was just that this conference initiated and hosted by the Ouyang family had completely turned into Luo Qingtong's home ground. The whole venue was her performance. What was there to continue? The head of the Ouyang family gritted his teeth as he thought of this. No need to continue anymore, he said angrily and waved his sleeves heavily. Take out the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb in your hands. Put it together. 3 days later, we will go to the entrance of the Saint Monarch's tomb together. He didn't want to see Luo Qingtong and the others for even a breath of time. Ouyang family head took out the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb in his hand. Huo family head saw this and couldn't care less about his depressed heart. He raised his hand and took out the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb he got from Luo Qingtong. The two looked at Luo Qingtong. The latter just smiled slightly and looked at Yu Sihuang. The corners of the latter's mouth twitched as he took out the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb. When the three maps were placed together and stacked on top of each other, they immediately revealed a brand new pattern. Other than the entrance's topography remaining unchanged, the interior's route had completely changed. The Hua family head and the Ouyang family head impatiently memorized the new route on the map. Yu Si Huang's heart was filled with depression. He looked at Luo Qingtong. Why didn't the girl take out the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb? When the four maps were stacked together, it was the most complete map of the sage monarch's tomb. At this moment, the routes revealed by the three maps were still lacking. There were still some places where the mechanisms and secret passageways were not completely revealed. Luo Qingtong also wanted to enter the Saint Monarch's tomb. A complete map would be of great use to her. She wouldn't hide the map of the Saint King's tomb and not take it out just to spite the Hua and Ouyang family heads, right? Yu Si Huang really didn't know what Luo Qingtong wanted to do. The latter's expression was very leisurely. Luo Qingtong ignored Yu Si Huang's gaze and just watched from the side. When the Hua family head and the Ouyang family head took back their respective maps of the Saint Monarch's tomb, she said to everyone, "Let's go." The group left the Ouyang family. Chapter 1462. As for Yu Si Huang, after dismissing the people from the southern region, he and Yu Xingqi followed Luo Qingtong and the others back to Family Hu. As soon as they stepped through the door of Family Hu's main courtyard, Yu Xingqi could no longer hold it in. "Sister, you still have a map of the Saint King's tomb, why didn't you take it out?" "The map of the Saint King's tomb needs to be superimposed to show the latest route. You have no use for one map by yourself," Yu Xingqi said. As soon as her voice sounded, Hu Zhongtian and the others suddenly looked at Luo Qingtong in surprise. The latter actually had a map of the Saint King's tomb on her. Even Hu Yannyang looked at Luo Qingtong in surprise. She knew that Luo Qingtong had a map in her hands. She originally thought that the map in Yu Si Huang's hands was Luo Qingtong's, and that it was given by Yu Si Huang's hands. Now it seemed that it was not the case. Master obviously had a map in her hands, why didn't she take it out to make a complete map? Everyone looked at Luo Qingtong in surprise. "You will know when you follow me." Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent, and she did not say much. She directly led Hu Yannyang and the others to Family Hu's main courtyard lobby. Everyone here was on the same side, so Luo Qingtong did not hide anything. She raised her hand and took out the map of the Saint King's tomb from the Celestial Palace, and then stretched out her hand to Yu Si Huang. "Map." Yu Si Huang handed over the map of the Saint King's tomb in his hands to her without any temper. He did not know if Yi Qianxian was also like this in front of her. He speculated in his heart with bad intentions. If that was the case, then there was nothing to be ashamed of in his current appearance. As he was thinking, he suddenly heard a series of exclamations from all around. Yu Si Huang raised his head, and in an instant, his pupils shrank. This is, as far as his eyes could see, Luo Qingtong raised her hand and drew two maps of the Saint King's tomb, which were suspended in the air. These two maps of the Saint King's tomb were completely composed of spiritual energy, and the markings on them were extremely clear. There was even a flow of spiritual energy in them. As the two maps were completed by Luo Qingtong raised her hand and overlapped the two maps with her and Yu Si Huang's maps. In an instant, a brand new map of the Saint King's tomb completely appeared before everyone. "Remember this map of the Saint King's tomb. This is the most complete map of the Saint King's tomb," said Luo Qingtong looked. And Yu Si Huang. The latter and the others were already stunned by Luo Qingtong's methods. "Master." Hu Yannyang was such a mature and steady person. For a moment, he forgot to cover up the way he addressed Luo Qingtong and stuttered. The method that Luo Qingtong showed now could be said to be the work of the gods. That was the map of the Saint King's tomb, a tomb map drawn by a Saint King. How on earth was Master able to completely memorize all the hidden spiritual chi imprints and lines within it? How could it be reproduced without a single mistake? The methods that were revealed were simply too shocking. Everyone looked at the brand new map of the Saint King's tomb that appeared in front of Luo Qingtong and did not know what to say. Chapter 1463. It turned out that his master had such a method. The two maps of the Saint King's tomb that Luo Qingtong drew in the air were clearly the two maps in the hands of the Ouyang and Hua family heads. No wonder his master had to borrow the map of the Saint King's tomb from the Ouyang family head to look at for a quarter of an hour. She was afraid that the Ouyang family head would tamper with it. It turned out that she wanted to memorize the map of the Saint King's tomb. And the Hua family head was even more deceptive. The map of the Saint King's tomb that the other party had painstakingly bought back was already memorized by Luo Qingtong. It was useless at all. She even tricked him ruthlessly. If the Hua family head knew, he would vomit a few liters of blood. 80% of his property was wasted. Everyone thought so, and suddenly the corners of their lips twitched slightly. For the black-bellied master, and for the bad luck of the Hua and Ouyang family heads. As for Yu Sihuang, after the momentary shock, he quickly discovered the difference between the two maps drawn by Luo Qingtong. To be precise, it was the difference between the map of the Saint King's tomb that Luo Qingtong sold to the Hua family by family Hu. This map, Yu Sihuang looked at the map of the Saint King's tomb that was superimposed on his and Luo Qingtong's maps, and his face was slightly puzzled. It seems to be different from what I just saw in the Ouyang family. Yu Sihuang saw the map of the Saint King's tomb in the hands of the Hua family head. Although he only glanced at it casually, he remembered the general outline. This map of the Saint King's tomb drawn by Luo Qingtong was obviously different from the one in the hands of the Hua family head. Could it be that Luo Qingtong drew it wrong? Or did she remember it wrong? He thought so and immediately wanted to remind Luo Qingtong. However, before he could speak, he heard the girl slowly say, "Of course it's different. The one I gave him, I changed it." When Yu Sihuang heard Luo Qingtong's words, he almost choked on his own saliva. "You've changed. That is to say, the latest map route we saw in the Ouyang family just now." "Oh, it's wrong," Luo Qingtong said casually. With her personality, how could she give the map of the Saint King's tomb to the Hua clan so easily? Not to mention that he had given it to her on his own accord. Even if she didn't want it, she would never give it to the Hua family. That map was specially altered by her to trick the Hua family and the Ouyang family. Luo Qingtong was able to see through the veins hidden in the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb. She only needed to slightly change a few places, and it was enough to change the appearance of the Saint Monarch's tomb. And because Luo Qingtong was familiar with the spirit energy patterns and routes in the map, that change did not affect the new route formed by the superposition of the three maps. Chapter 1464. Yu Sihuang's lips twitched. At the same time, in the Ouyang family, Feng Wan had already learned about what happened at the Sage King's tomb. She learned that Luo Qingtong had invited people from the Dark Colors arena to support her and fought against the Ouyang family and the Hua family. Not only that, but she also set up an auction for the Sage King's tomb map and got 80% of the Hua family's property. In an instant, her heart was filled with hatred. Bang! In an instant, she swept away all the things in front of her and sat there, panting heavily. Evil Dr. Ghost Eye. Her every word was like a ghost's. Feng Wan's hands suddenly clenched, and her sharp nails instantly dug deep into the table in front of her, almost crushing the hard Nanmu table into pieces. Really hateful. Evil Dr. Ghost Eye actually had such a trump card behind her. If she knew that she had the Dark Colors arena behind her, she wouldn't have made things difficult for her in this Sage King's tomb. She sent herself to her door for no reason and let the other party humiliate her. And that Ouyang Shao, what the hell is going on? Why did the eye technique she used on him suddenly lose its effect? Feng Yuan's silver teeth creaked as she clenched them. When she faced Luo Qintong, she wouldn't have lost so miserably. As long as Ouyang Shao was under her control, the Ouyang family would definitely have a fierce conflict with Luo Qintong. Even if the people from the Dark Colors arena came, it didn't matter. As long as Ouyang Shao was in her hands, how could she be threatened by Luo Qintong and forced by the Ouyang family head to bow her head and apologize to the other party? It was at that time that something went wrong. It caused her to lose face and suffer humiliation in the end. That's not it. She thought that after she left, the Ouyang family head and others who were enraged would definitely not let Luo Qintong and the others have an easy time. But she didn't expect that in the end, it completely became Luo Qintong's home ground. Forget about dealing with the other party, the Ouyang family head and others were completely led by the nose by the latter, okay? This Sage King's Tomb conference was originally held by the Ouyang family head to humiliate and deal with Luo Qintong. In the end, it was all for the other party's reputation. On the contrary, he, the Ouyang clan, and the Huo clan suffered a crushing defeat. Hate. Feng Yuan was filled with hatred. She hated the feeling that she was inferior to Luo Qintong in everything. Ever since the evil Dr. Ghost Eye had appeared, she had never been successful. As long as it was a scheme against the other party, it would always be seen through. Feng Yuan was almost driven mad by the fact that he was always inferior to his opponent. She was the proud daughter of Heaven of the Sky Spill continent. She was the most promising youth in the Black Field, second only to the Underworld Venerables. She would never allow anyone to overshadow her glory. Evil Dr. Gui Tong must die. Feng Yuan's eyes were cold, filled with a murderous aura. At this moment, Ouyang family head stepped into her small courtyard angrily. Saint Doctor. What's wrong with you today? Ouyang family head was also very angry and embarrassed today. The Sage King's Tomb conference should have been a good opportunity for the Ouyang family to establish their prestige, but it was completely ruined by Feng Yuan's actions against Luo Qintong. If he knew this would happen, he would never have agreed to Feng Yuan's request to help him deal with Luo Qintong. He had provoked such an enemy for no reason. Although they had a cooperative relationship with Feng Yuan, there was no stipulation that they had to help Feng Yuan deal with the enemy. Chapter 1465. Ouyang family head trembled in anger when he thought of the scene at the Sage King's tomb today. Before this, the Ouyang clan had never suffered such a huge loss and had never suffered such a great humiliation. He was seen as a joke by everyone, both inside and outside. What are you shouting for? Feng Yuan's voice was cold. She hadn't settled the score with Ouyang family head for forcing her to apologize to evil Dr. Ghost Eye. Moreover, how did she know that Luo Qintong was backed by the Dark Colors arena? The Ouyang family was the top family in Wild City, but they didn't even know this. Not only that, they couldn't even deal with evil Dr. Ghost Eye who hid his identity. How dare they shout in front of her? If not for the fact that she still needed to rely on the Ouyang family for some parts of her plan, she would have killed everyone in the Ouyang family. How dare the Ouyang family head shout in front of her? Feng Yuan's expression was cold. Without any outsiders around, she completely revealed her true nature. If not for the fact that she was afraid of revealing too much at the Sage King's tomb and affecting her future plans, she wouldn't have been forced by the Ouyang family head. If it were any other time, the Ouyang family would all die if they dared to treat her like this. Feng Yuan's current expression was gloomy and ice-cold like a ghost. She looked coldly at the Ouyang family head and said, "What's done is done. Instead of shouting at me here, why don't you think about how to deal with Yi Zhou in the Sage King's tomb? The others are nothing to be afraid of. Only she has the support of the king of the southern region. She might be a huge variable in our plan. Don't forget our agreement. Even if I don't let you deal with Yi Zhou, she will still be your enemy when we enter the Sage King's tomb. I let you deal with her now, but she revealed herself in advance, so you can be prepared. What do you have to blame me for? The moment Feng Yuan's words left his mouth, the Ouyang family head's expression eased slightly. What she said wasn't without reason. However, are you sure about that plan, Holy Doctor? He looked suspiciously at Feng Yuan. After the incident at the Sage King's tomb, he didn't trust Feng Yuan anymore. Yi Jiu had suffered a few losses at the hands of Yi Jiu. If the plan in the Sage King's tomb went wrong, the Ouyang family would immediately become the target of public. Not only that, the power behind the Yi Jiu was so shocking, he didn't know what his identity was. Plus Yu Sihuang, if Feng Yuan's plan, the Ouyang family wouldn't be able to bear the consequences. Humph. Fortune lies in danger. Ouyang family head, Wanzes. However, I have to remind you that if you miss this opportunity, your Ouyang clan may not have such an opportunity in the future to reach the heavens in a single bound. Furthermore, you've already offended Yi Jiu. It's unknown if he will let you off in the future. Lin Yi Se's clan's Lin Yi Dark's Dark Se Ouyang family head, how long do you think it will take for them to replace your Ouyang family's position in the Wild City? Feng Yuan sneered. Chapter 1466. Let's do as you say. I'll immediately contact the Huo family head. This time, we'll definitely make sure that none of them return from the Saint King's tomb. The Ouyang family head said as he strode out of the small courtyard. At the same time, his words floated in from outside. I hope you won't make a mistake this time. Absolutely not. Feng Yuan's voice was cold. She didn't expect evil Dr. Gui Tong to come to the western wilderness. But since he's here, don't even think about leaving. This Saint King's tomb will be her burial ground. She swore to use her blood as a sacrifice to start her journey of glory. Evil Dr. Gui Tong, Luo Qingtong, Great Chu, the Empire of Qin, those who had once dealt with her and caused her to be in such a miserable state, all of them, just you wait. When she returns, she'll make all these people pay the price in blood. Feng Yuan's eyes were extremely cold. At the same time, in Family Hu, Luo Qingtong let the people in Family Hu and Yu Sihuang memorize the new route of the map. Then, she immediately kept the two maps. She wanted to return one of them to Yu Sihuang. However, when the latter thought of her method of copying the map, his lips twitched and he immediately rejected it. He'll let Luo Qingtong keep it herself. Yu Sihuang didn't doubt that when he first showed the map to Luo Qingtong, she might have already memorized the map in his hands. Otherwise, why would she agree to let him accompany her so easily? And when she was with him, she wasn't polite at all. It was as if she wasn't afraid that he would leave with the map. Yu Sihuang was puzzled for a long time. Now he knew why. Since that was the case, what was the point of taking the map back? What's more, when he brought this map, he was going to give it to Luo Qingtong. He was afraid that she wouldn't let him accompany her, so he made a request. Who knew that the girl's tricks were so deep? Yu Sihuang's heart was deeply frustrated. His flower-like and jade-like beauty really couldn't attract the other party's interest at all. Damn it. He couldn't be that much worse looking than Yi Qianxian, right? Could it be that he really wasn't strong enough? With Luo Qingtong's temperament, it was possible that she would like someone stronger. As Yu Sihuang thought about it, he immediately rubbed his beautiful and clean chin, and decided that he must become stronger. Let's see how Luo Qingtong will ignore him. While Yu Sihuang was deep in thought, Luo Qingtong was in her room. She closed the door and windows, and conveniently let Little Pig out. Guard this place well. Luo Qingtong said, then took out the jade thumb ring that she had found first, which was related to the Saint King's tomb. Shwa. As Luo Qingtong activated the mechanism, a spiritual energy light pattern instantly pulled Luo Qingtong out from the ring like pulling out a brocade. This was the first clue that Luo Qingtong had found about the Saint King's tomb. But at that time, she thought that this light pattern was the map of the Saint King's tomb. But now it seemed that this light pattern was related to the Saint King's tomb, but it wasn't a part of the Saint King's tomb map. What would appear when it was superimposed with the complete map formed by the 4 maps of the Saint King's tomb? Luo Qingtong thought so, and immediately superimposed the light pattern in the jade thumb ring with the new map of the Saint King's tomb. Chapter 1467. A faintly discernible red dot appeared on the brand new map of the sage monarch's tomb. This is, Luo Qingtong's eyes narrowed. When the light pattern on the jade ring overlapped with the brand new map of the sage monarch's tomb, a red dot appeared. What did it represent? A secret place in the sage monarch's tomb. Since the light pattern on the jade ring overlapped with the map of the sage monarch's tomb, it meant that it was related to the sage monarch's tomb. What's this? Little Pig had just been released by Luo Qingtong and was swaying left and right. When it turned around and saw the big red dot on the light pattern in Luo Qingtong's hand, it asked in surprise. I don't know. Luo Qingtong tapped her index finger. She looked at the red dot and suddenly remembered the information she received from the people of the Celestial Palace, the information about the land of the fallen immortals in the hidden world. The people of the Celestial Palace brought the map of the sage monarch's tomb out of the hidden world in order to find clues about the land of the fallen immortals hidden in the sage monarch's tomb. I wonder if the light pattern on the jade ring is related to the land of the fallen immortals? No matter if it is or not, it is still a clue. With this thought in mind, Luo Qingtong immediately memorized the location of the big red dot and threw the jade ring to Little Pig. Here, you like it. The corner of Little Pig's lips twitched as he looked at the jade thumb ring that had been completely squeezed out of it. Forget it, forget it. In any case, she returned it to me. Isn't that right? Little Pig comforted himself with twitching lips. Where did that little fox go? Little Pig put away the jade thumb ring and said while looking left and right. He knew that Yi Qianxian gave a little fox to Luo Qingtong. In the end, this woman who didn't take him seriously treated that little fox like a treasure. Previously, she didn't even let him out for a walk. She was even afraid that he would bully that little fox. Was there any justice in this world? Who exactly was her contracted beast? He was a dignified divine pig. His status as a contracted beast was simply too sullen. Little Pig had a bellyful of anger in his heart. He was thinking of telling that little fox who was the boss here after he came out of the cave. Unexpectedly, he didn't see it when he came out this time. Yi Qianxian brought it back. Luo Qingtong raised her eyebrows at the mention of Yin Bao. She had actually brought back the little fox from the Ouyang family, but it was too different from Silver Bao. After Luo Qingtong played with her for a while, she lost interest and handed her over to Hu Yenyang. Speaking of which, she was not a person who particularly liked small animals, but she liked to take care of Silver Baby. The care of it had never been left to anyone else. Was it because he loved her, or was it because of something else? Luo Qingtong fell into deep thought. Meanwhile, in the black field, bolts of black lightning suddenly gathered above the huge floating city. Those bolts of lightning were as thick as giant beasts. They circled around the entire black field and danced up and down, baring their fangs and brandishing their claws. Rumble. The remaining power of those bolts of lightning was incomparably shocking from afar. What's going on? A sage realm expert in the black field was about to fly out to investigate. Chapter 1468. With a sizzling sound, a small lightning aura suddenly splashed down from above. In the next second, he didn't even have time to scream before he was turned into ashes by that small lightning aura. Seeing this scene, the faces of the people in the Black Domain General City immediately changed. Where did these lightning bolts come from? It was actually so powerful. Just this tiny bit of aura was enough to kill a Saint Realm expert without being able to resist. If all the lightning in the sky were to fall, then the consequences would be, no one dared to imagine it. As everyone in the black field was horrified, in the dark venerable palace, Bei Qing and Feng Yu looked up at the thunder and lightning gathering in the sky, their expressions extremely solemn. Elder Yu. They looked at the old man beside them. Yi Qianqian's demon fox blood essence had been dissolved by more than half. This was when the lightning began to gather. Obviously, they were all coming for their master. Take your master and leave this place immediately. Elder Yu's expression was also indescribably solemn. His expression was grave as he looked at the sky outside the Black Region headquarters. Everyone in the Black Field only saw the thunder and lightning in the sky, but they didn't know that in the depths of the void, there was an even thicker thunder and lightning that was like a divine thunder that could destroy the world, brewing. Moreover, that aura seemed to be endless, gathering more and more. At this moment, the thunder and lightning aura condensing in the sky above the Black Field was not at its strongest. When it finished brewing and fell, not to mention the entire Black Field, even the entire sky spill continent would be crushed under the bombardment of these thunder and lightning. Wasn't this boy's physique too scary? He had only borrowed the demon fox's demon fox blood essence and heart core to extend his life for 3 years. It had caused such turmoil in the heavenly Tao. The heavenly vein body was so powerful. The heavenly Tao couldn't tolerate it at all. But no matter what, Yi Qianxian couldn't stay here any longer. The sky spill continent's level was too low, it couldn't withstand the bombardment of these thunder and lightning. They couldn't display their full strength here. Let's go, he said to Bei Qing and Feng Yu. Yes. The two of them did not dare delay, so they quickly entered the medicine hall. They picked up the silver fox, whose eyes were closed as it tried to dissolve the fox blood inside its body. Then, they flew out of the Black Field. Buzz! The silver fox was lying in the basket that Bei Qing, Feng Yu and the others had prepared. Its whole body was glowing with light. A faintly discernible human silhouette appeared behind it. Following the dissolution of the demon fox's blood essence in its body, the human-shaped light figure became more and more solid. At the same time, the aura of the thunder and lightning condensed in the sky became more condensed and powerful. Following the departure of Bei Qing, Feng Yu and the others, the lightning also disappeared. The people in the Black Field main city heaved a sigh of relief, not knowing what had happened. Only Elder Yu, Du Fei, and the others who were watching them leave knew what was going on. In the western wilderness, in the wild city, Luo Qingtong was still unaware of the changes that had occurred in the Black Field main city. After she memorized the red dot on the light pattern in the jade ring, she went to where Su Yu and the others were and handed over all the resources and connections of the voodoo sect to them. Chapter 1469. Because they wanted to develop Su Yu and the others as a secret force, Luo Qingtong would not enter the Saint King's tomb with them this time. Everything depended on Su Yu and the others. However, she believed that with the complete map of the Saint King's tomb, Su Yu and the others should have no problem with their abilities. After Luo Qingtong finished dealing with these matters, the 3-day time limit was also up. Wild City, Central Square. When Luo Qingtong and the others arrived, there was already a surge of people here. Because the Ouyang clan had released the news in advance, there were many forces in the far west wilderness who had rushed here. In addition, there were many itinerant cultivators. There were many lone pioneers in the far west wilderness. Not everyone who came to the far west wilderness would form a force or establish a force. Many people came here to hunt for the resources they needed at the moment. After hunting, they would leave, so they did not join any forces. Now that they heard the news of the Saint King's tomb, they immediately rushed over to try their luck. However, most of these people just happened to be in the far west wilderness and happened to hear the news of the Saint King's tomb. There were no powerhouses who deliberately heard the news and rushed over from the other 3 regions. After all, a month's time was not long, but it was not short either. The news spread from Wild City. It was already lucky for the people in the far west wilderness to hear it. It was basically difficult to spread to the other 3 regions. Even if it spread, those people could not make it in time. Luo Qingtong's eyes narrowed slightly. She did not know what the Ouyang clan and Feng Wan were doing. They deliberately spread the news of the Saint King's tomb and set a 1-month time limit. What were they trying to do? However, this trip to the Saint King's tomb would definitely not be peaceful. The arrival of Luo Qingtong and the others quickly attracted the attention of everyone present. Most of the forces present participated in the Saint King's tomb conference. Those who did not participate also heard about it from those who did. Everyone now knew that family who had a young master Yijiu. His identity and origin were mysterious, but he was able to invite the kings of the 3 islands and 7 lands in the southern region and the people of the Dark Colors Arena to back him up. Especially the people from the Dark Colosseum. They had never interfered with the matters of the far west desolate region, but this time, they had made an exception for the other party. Not only that, but she had also humiliated the Huo clan and Ouyang clan at the Sage King's tomb. He had acquired 80% of the Huo family's assets. Now, with the help of the Dark Colors Arena, 80% of the business belonged to family Hu. It could be said that family Hu, who was once in decline, had now risen again and became a first-rate force in the Wildland City. They had entered the ranks of the top forces. The only thing that family Hu lacked now was the strength of a top family. However, Yijiu and family Hu both had a map in their hands for this expedition to the Saint Monarch's tomb. Who knew what they would gain? If it was a huge hit, then this time, family Hu would really be like a dragon leaping out of the abyss and soaring into the sky. After all, the young master of family Hu Fei, was once an outstanding disciple who was not inferior to the direct descendants of the top families. After being in a coma for more than 10 years, not only did his strength not regress, it even improved. Now, his cultivation was already at the saint stage. With such strength, coupled with the gains in the Saint Monarch's tomb, family Hu would definitely be able to secure the position of a top family in the future. And all of this depended on Luo Qingtong. The young man could summon rain with a flip of his hand and clouds with a flip of his hand. Chapter 1470. Before today, who would have thought that family Hu had almost been wiped out, would have such good fortune? All the big and small forces in Wildland City were already regretting their actions to the point of their intestines turning green. Especially those who used to be on good terms with family Hu but distanced themselves because of family Hu's decline, and even hit them when they were down, they were filled with regret. They heard that when family Hu dealt with the Bai family, the 2 small families who stood behind family Hu without a care for the consequences had now received generous rewards. When family Hu's people took over the Huo family's assets, they also took back the Bai family's assets that the other factions had previously divided. Back then, it was family Hu's people who dealt with the Bai family. The other factions took advantage of family Hu's lack of power and divided up the Bai family's assets. Now, they had spat it all out. Family Hu's people divided it among the 2 small families. Those 2 families were instantly promoted to mid-level families. Not only that, they even signed a future alliance with family Hu. As long as family Hu did not fall, those 2 families would be protected forever. When this news spread, countless people beat their feet and stomped their chests. They had the same opportunity as those 2 families, but it was all ruined by their own selfishness and snobbishness. At this moment, those 2 families followed behind family Hu's people. Under the envious gazes of the crowd, Luo Qingtong led them to the center of the square. Humph! Despicable people intoxicated by success. When you enter the Saint King's tomb, I'll see how you die. Clan head Huo looked at the figures of Luo Qingtong and the others, and his eyes instantly turned red as he gritted his teeth. 80% of the Huo family's assets had been taken away. That damned family who had chosen the most valuable assets of the Huo family and had the most solid foundation. Clan head Huo was so angry that he almost fainted. At that moment, he realized that he had been tricked by Yi Jiu again. That bastard. Yi Jiu did not explain what 80% of the assets were, and he was so angry that he did not think too much. In the end, she took away 80% of the best assets on his side. This loss was almost equivalent to 90% of the value of his family's foundation. After family whose people took back all of the assets, the entire Huo family was practically an empty shell. If not for the Huo family's top fighters and experts, their reputation as a top family would have been undeserved. Clan head Huo could still remember the feeling of blood rushing to his head. He hated that he could not cut Luo Qingtong into 1,000 pieces. Yi Jiu's. When they entered the Saint King's tomb, they would not. Of course, he would not let them die so easily. Especially Yi Jiu's. Clan head Huo's family. In the Ouyang family's team, Feng Yuan, whose alias was Luan, was beside the Ouyang family head. She looked in the direction of Luo Qingtong and the others with a dark expression. Luan. Luo. Luo. Why? They were both hiding their identities. Luo Qingtong was living a glorious life, but she was like a mouse that could not be exposed to the light. Evil Dr. Gui Tong, just you wait. I will make sure you die miserably in the Saint King's tomb. Feng Yuan's eyes were vicious. She raised her hand and wiped the blood from her fingers. After noon, most of the forces had arrived. Clan head Huo glanced at the forces gathered in the square, then ordered, "Let's go." Chapter 1471. The sage monarch's tomb was located in the southeast of Wild City, thousands of miles away. For ordinary people, this place was rather far away. However, it was nothing to the powerhouses of the various forces in Wild City. After all, those who dared to explore the sage monarch's tomb had to have a certain level of strength. For those who were weak, even if the map was given to them, they might not dare to go. The group of people flew quickly and soon arrived at the entrance marked on the map of the sage monarch's tomb. This is the place. The Ouyang family head led the Ouyang family to a stop and landed in an open space in the wilderness. This place was not too far away from Wild City, and it was not too remote either. Many pioneers of Wild City might have passed by this place when they were entering or leaving the city. However, they never thought that there was a sage monarch's tomb hidden here. Rumble. As the Ouyang family head took out the map of the sage monarch's tomb, the sun instantly shone on the map. In an instant, countless rays of light converged and then refracted into a straight line. It passed through the group of people and landed on a huge rock not far away. The Ouyang family head walked over and raised his hand to press on the spot where the ray of light shone. In an instant, there was a violent vibration. The place where everyone was standing rumbled and the entire ground moved to the side, revealing a huge, dark hole. The entrance to the sage monarch's tomb. Everyone looked at the black hole that had suddenly appeared, and their eyes burned with passion. The tomb of a Saint Realm powerhouse. They wondered how many treasures there would be inside. Let's go. The Ouyang family head took the lead and led his people in. The Huo family people followed closely behind. Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent as she followed behind them with the family Hu people. The people from the other forces followed behind the three of them and walked inside. After all of them had entered, there was a rumbling sound and the huge, dark hole outside closed again. The group of people continued to walk inside. The tunnel leading to the underground was very long and the walls were not smooth. As the group walked in, a Saint Realm powerhouse suddenly said, "This tunnel was directly blasted open by someone's strength." Hearing this, everyone's faces were filled with shock. Was he blasted out by someone's power? They looked around and quickly realized that this was indeed the case. On the walls of the passageway, there were still traces of energy scouring. Moreover, it was done in one breath without any interruption. In other words, the person who blasted open this passage only used one move. All of them were thinking about this when the Saint Realm expert who spoke just now suddenly raised his palm and slammed it towards the stone wall. Bang! The stone wall didn't move in the slightest, but he was forced to take a few steps back. What? When everyone saw this scene, they were instantly stunned. Why was the wall so hard? Many people refused to believe it and immediately raised their hands to attack the stone wall beside them. However, none of them were able to leave a single mark on it. Only now did everyone realize how powerful the person who blasted open this passage was. The longer they walked down, the more shocked they became. Oh my God! Is this the strength of a Saint Realm master? Everyone was extremely excited. By now, they had probably walked a distance of nearly 1,000 meters. Even a Saint Realm powerhouse couldn't leave a mark on the stone wall to create such a long passage. The strength of the person behind this was unimaginable. In this Saint King's tomb, other than that Saint King powerhouse, who else would leave a passage leading to the tomb? Chapter 1472. All of a sudden, the area in front of them opened up. Like the sudden appearance of the sky, the light poured down from the front and shone. Everyone unconsciously narrowed their eyes and looked forward. They saw a glorious and dazzling underground palace suddenly appear in front of them. This underground palace covered an unknown area. The place where Luo Qingtong and the others appeared was right where the entrance was. The green bricks and glazed tiles mixed with the bronze doors stood in front of everyone. This splendid underground palace was like a giant beast that was slumbering in this place. Everyone looked at it in amazement. At the same time, there was an indescribable joy in their hearts. This was the tomb of a holy king expert? The crowd approached the walls of the underground palace. Rumble. As if it had sensed their approach, the door to the underground palace slowly opened with a loud buzzing sound. Let's go. Ouyang family head and the others took the lead and walked inside. The crowd filed into the door of the underground palace. In front of them was a huge square. Everyone's figures appeared in it. This is the Holy King's tomb. Everyone looked around this place. The four sides of this square were usually connected to 3 passages on each side. There were a total of 12 passages. Each passage was exactly the same. The only difference was the ancient fierce beast carved above the entrance of the passage. These passages should be the way to enter the depths of the Holy King's tomb, right? Everyone looked at these passages and their hearts jumped in an instant. They looked at Luo Qingtong, Ouyang family head, Hua family head, and the others. Yes, these passages all lead to the depths of the Holy King's tomb. You can choose any passage to enter. Ouyang family head nodded. His words were very obvious. At this point, the 3 families could no longer lead the way for everyone. Whether they could choose the right passage to enter or not, it was up to them. Everyone also understood the meaning of his words and suddenly did not say anything. They were already mentally prepared before coming in. At this time, they were very obedient and began to choose the passage they wanted to enter. The 12 passages could accommodate a lot of people at the same time. After a while, the people in the square were almost gone. Luo Qingtong and Su Yu, who were mixed in the crowd, looked at each other. The latter nodded at her with the heavenly diabolism's people, then led them into the correct passage. Humph. After everyone had entered the passage, only Luo Qingtong's people, the Ouyang clan, and the Huo clan's people were left in the square. The head of the Ouyang family snorted coldly. His gaze was as cold as a knife as it swept over the place where Luo Qingtong and the others were. Let's go too. He would let Yi Jiu and the others live a little longer. When that time came, he would deal with them. The group strode towards a tunnel in front of them. That passage was the latest route that appeared after the 3 maps of the Saint Monarch's tomb overlapped. The Ouyang family head and the others had no idea that the route on the map was wrong. He didn't even look back as he continued to walk forward. The head of the Huo clan and the others also used their sharp gazes to look at the place where Luo Qingtong and the others were, especially Luo Qingtong. They wished they could poke a few holes in her body. Ha! Yi Jiu, 9th Young Master. Chapter 1473. Since ancient times, the strong have priority. Our Huo family and Ouyang family will go in first. You shouldn't have any objections, right? Of course, I think you probably don't have the right to have any objections. After all, your strength. Master Huo's gaze swept across Luo Qingtong and the family who people behind her. His face was full of contempt. He purposely ignored Yu Sihuang and the others to discuss Luo Qingtong and the others. Just based on Yi Jiu and the family who trashed behind her. If not for the support of Yu Sihuang and the people from the Dark Colors Arena, how could he and the others be so miserably defeated by her? This time, the people from the Dark Colors Arena didn't come. With only Yu Sihuang and the people from the southern region, he wanted to see how she could withstand his and the Ouyang family's attacks. You! Hearing that Master Huo was scolding them, family who people's expressions changed. Even if someone wanted to retort, Luo Qingtong raised her hand to stop him. Master Huo is right. Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent as she looked at Master Huo with a smile. The strong have priority. Then, Master Huo, please go in quickly. Otherwise, it won't be good if we go in late. After all, if Master Ouyang falls too far behind, your Huo family will suffer a great loss. Luo Qingtong's smile was evil. That evil smile inexplicably made Master Huo's heart skip a beat. He felt a sense of trepidation. Humph. I don't need you to remind me of this. Of course, I know. Thinking that Luo Qingtong had given in, Master Huo's expression was arrogant. He sneered and swept a glance at Luo Qingtong and the others. Then, with a flick of his sleeve, he led the Huo family people and hurriedly walked in the direction of the passage. Although they had formed an alliance with the Ouyang family to deal with Luo Qingtong together. But the items in the tomb of the Sage King were obtained with their own abilities. He couldn't let the Ouyang family people be too far ahead of them. Damn it, it's all Yi Jiu's fault. If he wasn't so angry, why would he stay for so long to humiliate them? Humph. Once they obtained the treasures in the Saint King's tomb, they would have a good time. With this thought in mind, the Huo family's patriarch quickened his pace. Looking at their hurried departing figures, the smile on Luo Qingtong's lips curled even higher. She only hoped that the Huo family would like the surprise she had specially prepared for them. Young master, Patriarch Huo has gone too far. Why did you let him off so easily? The people from family who were confused. Except for Hu Zhongtian, Hu Fei, and a few others who already knew about the real and fake map, everyone else looked at Luo Qingtong with a puzzled expression. He didn't know why the 9th young master, who had always been strong, would allow the Huo family head to mock and ridicule him. He didn't even retaliate. This wasn't young master's style. Ever since they started following Luo Qingtong, they had never seen her suffer a loss. Not to mention, he had taken the initiative to suffer losses and even agreed with Patriarch Huo's words. Young master. What's wrong with you? Everyone was confused, but Hu Zhongtian, Hu Fei, and the others who knew the truth immediately laughed. Ha! Don't worry. Young master didn't suffer a loss. They all knew about the real and fake map, so naturally, they knew that Luo Qingtong's words had a hidden meaning. Chapter 1474. If there was a priority, it should be them. Clan Head Hua's words were basically scolding them. Yet, he was unaware of it and had a smug and proud look on his face. Hu Zhongtian and the others couldn't help but laugh when they thought about it. Luo Qingtong smiled at the side but didn't say anything. After a while, when Clan Head Hua and the others had all entered the tunnel, she said to everyone, let's go too. The people from Family Hu and the people from the southern mountain range were still confused and didn't know what Hu Zhongtian and the others were laughing about. When they saw Luo Qingtong turn around and walk into another tunnel, and it wasn't the tunnel that Clan Head Hua and Ouyang Clan Head went into, they finally understood. Young Master, you. The people from Family Hu were pleasantly surprised. Even the people from the southern mountain range had a slight change in their expressions. At this point, if they still didn't know the truth, they would be a little stupid. The tunnel that Luo Qingtong walked into was the real safe tunnel in the Saint King's tomb, right? The tunnel that Clan Head Hua and Ouyang Clan Head took was fake. How did young master do it? Everyone looked at Luo Qingtong with unspeakable respect and admiration. Especially the people from the southern mountain range, they were both relieved and fearful. Fortunately, they followed Yu Sihuang and stood on Luo Qingtong's side. Otherwise, they would have been played to death by the young man's scheming methods and abilities. Until now, they still didn't know how Luo Qingtong managed to make the people from the Hua and Ouyang clans enter the wrong tunnel. Wasn't there no problem when the three maps were overlapped? Could it be that she could tamper with the maps? But, that was a map made by a Saint King. Moreover, the new route would only appear when the three maps were overlapped. If she tampered with one of the maps, wouldn't it be exposed when the three maps were overlapped? Unless, Luo Qingtong could make changes to the map without changing the spiritual energy fluctuation and texture of the map itself. As everyone thought so, they looked at Luo Qingtong with even more reverence. The people of the southern mountain range, because of their relationship with Yu Sihuang, reluctantly listened to Luo Qingtong. But now, he was completely convinced. Luo Qingtong's trick was done in front of the Huo clan and Ouyang clan without anyone noticing. It was a piece of cake for her to kill them in the Saint Monarch's tomb. This was the first time that the people of the southern mountain range truly felt that strength did not necessarily mean everything. Sufficient scheming, ability, means, coupled with the right time and place. It could completely negate the disparity in strength. Of course, absolute power was something that could not be broken through by any means. However, it was clear that they had not reached that level yet. A group of people followed Luo Qingtong with awe in their eyes and walked towards the correct passage. And in that wrong passage, Feng Wan and the Ouyang clan's people were walking inside. Suddenly, no. Quick! There was something wrong with this passage. Get out of here immediately. After the group had walked for some distance, the voice of the green smoke suddenly resounded in her mind. When Feng Wan heard this, he was shocked and said. Chapter 1475. After Qing Yan gave her the map of the Saint King's tomb and asked her to come to the far west wilderness, he fell into a deep sleep. Feng Wan thought that he had just woken up and did not know that the map of the Saint King's tomb had been superimposed with the other two maps to form another map route. Although the three maps were not complete, at least the first two-thirds of the map route shown would not be a problem. However, before she could finish her sentence, the voice of the wisp of Qing Yan sounded again. Nothing is impossible. There's something wrong with this passage. I've already sensed it, you. Before he could finish his sentence, in an instant, rumble. A series of explosions could be heard coming from the front. An enormous storm of qi that seemed to want to wreak havoc on everything suddenly converged into a ball, roaring as it rolled over from the front. That terrifying and violent spiritual energy almost tore everything apart and filled the entire passage. Mechanism. It's a mechanism. This passage is wrong. Quick. Retreat. The people of the Ouyang clan in front were already panicking and kept running backward. Rumble. The huge spiritual energy ball rolled, and the spiritual energy it emitted was like a sharp sword. Wherever it passed, the Ouyang clan disciples who were slightly weaker were immediately pierced by the spiritual energy arrows. Finally, they were cut into pieces. Ah! Run! In the passage, the screams and panicked voices of the people of the Ouyang clan sounded, and the scene suddenly became chaotic. Holy Doctor, what's going on? The Ouyang clan master was in high spirits and led his people to the front. When he saw the treasure, he immediately showed his skills. However, he did not see the treasure, but such a mechanism was waiting for him. With a leap, he instantly appeared in front of Feng Wuan and asked in exasperation. The map in his hand came from Feng Wuan. When something happened, he naturally looked for him. However, the Ouyang clan master could not figure it out. The three maps were clearly superimposed to show the latest route. Logically, there should not be a problem. What was going on now? However, not to mention him, even Feng Wuan could not figure out how things turned out like this. There's a problem with the map route. Let's get out of here first. Seeing that the giant ball formed by the spiritual energy storm was flying towards him, Feng Wuan didn't have time to think too much. He turned around and rushed back. The Ouyang family head had no other choice. The group of people from the Ouyang family all flew back in a sorry state. Along the way, from time to time, some of the weaker disciples of the Ouyang clan would be caught up by the spiritual energy storm and die from being pierced by thousands of arrows. Screams rang out endlessly. Behind them, the Ho family head and the others had just entered the passage and were about to chase after the Ouyang family head and the others. However, at this moment, he heard a series of screams coming from the front, as well as the roar of the spirit energy storm raging. What's going on? The head of the Ho family was stunned for a moment before he immediately reacted. There's something wrong with this tunnel. Ouyang family head and the others had encountered a trap ahead. Quick! Let's go! He hurriedly turned around. However, at this moment, a rumbling sound suddenly came from the entrance of the passage they came from. Then, a huge rock slowly descended from the top of the passageway. Seeing this scene, the Ho family head's eyes almost popped out. Dragon-breaking stone. Bastard! Yi Zhou! It's all you're doing. Chapter 1476. When he turned around and didn't see Luo Qingtong and the others, Patriarch Hua knew something was wrong. Now that he saw the dragon-breaking stone falling from the sky, how could he not know what was going on? All of them had been fooled by Luo Qingtong. This passage wasn't a real safe passage at all. They and the Ouyang family were all fooled by Luo Qingtong. Although he didn't know how the other party did it, the Hua family's head already knew in his heart that the new map made up of 3 maps that he and the Ouyang family's head saw was probably all wrong. That route was completely useless. As Patriarch Hua's voice sounded, Feng Wuan and the others, who were retreating with all their might, heard his words, and their expressions changed instantly. This was Luo Qingtong's trick. Evil Dr. Ghost Eye. Feng Wuan gritted his teeth in anger. Patriarch Ouyang's veins popped out on his forehead as he shouted, Yi Zhou! Bastard! Don't let me go out. Otherwise, I'll make you wish you were dead. The other party had set a trap early on and just waited for them to step into it. Bastard! Bastard! Patriarch Ouyang was furious. At this moment, there was only enough space for one person to bend over and escape before the dragon-breaking stone fell. Patriarch Hua was the closest to it. He was also the most powerful in the whole family. At this moment, looking at the dragon's snapping stone that was about to completely fall, he was so angry that he was about to explode. Yi Zhou! Yi Zhou! I want you to die. Patriarch Hua's eyes were ferocious. It was impossible to take everyone from the Hua family out. These people were destined to be left in this passage full of mechanisms and traps, and he didn't know how many of them would survive in the end. Yi Zhou, you deserve to die. Bang! Patriarch Hua rushed out of the passage, and at the same time, the dragon-breaking stone fell. Ah! No! Patriarch! Save us! The voices of the Hua clan were all blocked behind the dragon-breaking stone. However, that mournful voice seemed to resound in the ears of the Hua family head, causing his eyes to turn bloodshot. His entire face was distorted like a devil's. Yi Zhou. He glanced around and saw Luo Qingtong standing not far from the passageway. The latter had just opened the dragon-breaking stone and was about to turn around and leave when he saw the Hua family head's figure rushing out. He immediately narrowed his eyes. She calculated the time to open the broken dragon stone. Logically speaking, Patriarch Hua and the others should have already gone far enough. They shouldn't have had time to rush out. What went wrong? Luo Qingtong's mind spun rapidly as she retreated rapidly at the same time. At the same time, the Hua clan's patriarch charged toward her. Boom! The aura around him exploded. In an instant, a vast and powerful aura burst out from his body. It stirred up the heaven and earth spirit chi in the square and formed a huge spirit chi vortex. The aura around him was vast and powerful. It surged like the sea and was extremely ferocious. The Sage Realm. The strength of the patriarch of a top family was so powerful. Back then, family who was extremely powerful but couldn't enter the top family because Hu Zhongtian's strength was only one step away from the Sage Realm. He only needed to break through and surpass the Sage Realm to enter the top family. Chapter 1477. He had been tricked by Bai Feng. Because of Yin Yang and Hu Fei's matter, he had been exhausted and unable to focus on breaking through. That was why he was delayed. At this moment, the Hua family head's aura spread out. Instantly, he, Yi Huang, and the other experts who were above the saint stage sensed it. Not good. Young master. Sensing the vast and mighty aura coming from the square, the faces of Hu Zhongtian and the rest abruptly changed. They were waiting for Luo Qingtong in the correct passage. The young man said that she would come later. However, she did not come. They sensed a different and powerful aura coming from the square outside. Something had happened to her. Qingtong. Yi Huang's demonic aura suddenly changed. In an instant, it became as deep as the sea. His face was ice cold. His devilishly handsome face was now filled with killing intent and coldness. The aura of the king of the southern mountain range was fully displayed. The aura around his body suddenly fluctuated, and in the next second, he rushed out of the tunnel before Hu Zhongtian and the others. Humph! You want to save her? Yi Huang, dream on. The Hua family head sneered. When he had attacked Luo Qingtong, he had already noticed that Yi Huang and the others were not around. Clearly, they had already entered the correct passageway. Yi Jiu had caused the Hua family to fall into the wrong passage. This time, the heavens were helping him. Without Yi Huang and the others, he wanted to see how she could block his attack. He wanted her to die in despair. Yi Huang and the others could forget about saving her. Sensing Yi Huang's aura rushing out of the passage, the Hua family head smiled maliciously. He suddenly raised his hand. An extremely fierce aura, carrying a power that could overturn mountains and seas, followed the direction of Yu Chong Huang and the others' auras and blasted towards the top of the correct passage. There was a ferocious beast totem carved on it. It was the mechanism of the dragon-breaking stone. When the whole family head came out, he glanced around and found that the ferocious beast totem outside the passage they had entered had been activated. That must be the mechanism of the dragon-breaking stone. Yi Zhou, close the dragon-breaking stone and cut off all of our escape routes. Now, I'll let you have a taste of it. Let's see how you die in my hands. The whole family head sneered with a ferocious expression. That attack, which was accompanied by a vast, unparalleled power, violently blasted the top ferocious beast totem into the stone wall. The mechanism was deeply triggered and lost control in an instant. Boom! The huge dragon-snapping stone fell from the top of the passage and closed the passage. And Yu Si Huang's current figure was less than a meter away from the entrance. Clear pupil. Seeing the dragon-breaking stone fall, Yu Si Huang's pupils suddenly shrank. Behind him, Hu Zhongtian and the others who were rushing over were also startled. Young Master! Master! Chu Lingfeng, who was following closely behind Hu Zhongtian and the rest of the Saint Realm experts with his powerful physical strength, saw this scene and his eyes turned red. Mistress, she was still outside. He recklessly rushed to the front of the dragon-snapping stone and madly attacked it. Chapter 1478. I'm fine. Don't worry about me. Continue to follow the route on the map. We'll meet at the end. That voice was very soft. It was obvious that Luo Qingtong used some special method to pass through the broken dragon stone. At the same time, outside, seeing that Yu Si Huang and the others were all trapped outside the broken dragon stone and isolated in the correct passage, Master Huo laughed wildly. Ha! Yi Zhou! I'll see how you die this time. You should also have a taste of despair. As he spoke, he waved his sleeves fiercely. In an instant, a roar like the sea and a roar like the collapse of the mountains and the cracking of the earth came out from his sleeves. In an instant, a vast and aggressive attack swept towards Luo Qingtong violently. He wanted Luo Qingtong to die miserably in order to dispel the hatred in his heart. Yi Zhou, prepare to die. As Master Huo's voice sounded, the terrifying huge spiritual energy attack that almost split the sky of the square blasted towards Luo Qingtong. You want to take my life? I'm afraid you're still a little lacking. After Luo Qingtong transmitted her voice to Yu Si Huang and the others, she focused her attention on Master Huo. At this moment, when she saw his violent attack coming towards her, she immediately focused her eyes. In an instant, she activated her pupil technique. Her figure was like a willow leaf in the wind. In an instant, she swept up and almost narrowly avoided Master Huo's attack. Then, she stomped her feet. In the next second, she suddenly bent her waist and swept into a passage on the side. There were 12 passages in the square. Even if Luo Qingtong went the wrong way, she was not afraid. To others, these erroneous passageways could lead to death. But for Luo Qingtong, it was a rare chance of survival. Bang! Master Huo's attack missed. In an instant, the whole square shook violently. But the ground was not damaged at all. Bastard! Seeing that Luo Qingtong actually avoided his attack, Master Huo's eyes became more and more bloodshot. What kind of monster was he? He was actually able to dodge his attack. One should know that even a Saint Realm expert would not be able to dodge his attack. Only those who had surpassed the Saint Realm would be able to avoid it. As for Luo Qingtong, let alone the Sage Realm, she hadn't even reached the Martial Spirit Realm. The strength of the Martial Ancestor Realm was extremely weak in the eyes of the Huo clan's patriarch. However, Luo Qingtong used this weak power to the extreme. Like a needle piercing through a thin film, it pierced through the weakest point of his attack, forcibly breaking through his aura and avoiding his attack. What the hell is going on? Since when was a martial ancestor realm cultivator this powerful? This was completely illogical. The whole clan's patriarch was so angry that his whole body trembled. His whole body shook violently, and he quickly chased after Luo Qingtong. He didn't believe it. Luo Qingtong could avoid it once, but could she avoid it a second time, a third time, or even a fourth time? Sooner or later, he would be caught by him. Moreover, Luo Qingtong had swept into a wrong passage. Did she think that he wouldn't chase after her? What a joke. Even if the traps in there were to deal with him, they would deal with her first. He would see how she was unable to move an inch inside, and then look on in despair as he approached her step by step. Chapter 1479. But soon, he couldn't laugh anymore. Rumble. As his figure plunged into the passageway, the hidden traps in all directions were suddenly activated at the same time. Countless attacks flew toward him like locusts and sharp swords. Seeing this scene, Patriarch Hua's eyes widened. This is impossible. What's going on? Why were these attacks specifically directed at him? Where was Yi Zhou? Yi Zhou was still in front of him. Why was she fine? And, he didn't trigger these traps at all. Why were they suddenly attacking him? Patriarch Hua was about to go crazy when he saw this scene full of locusts. He couldn't understand what was going on. But he didn't know that Luo Qingtong's blood-red eyes could see everything clearly in this passageway. She was naturally clear about those traps and secret passageways. Leaving a little bit of power and waiting for Patriarch Hua to arrive to trigger them. It couldn't be easier. Patriarch Hua thought that he had forced her into a dead end, but he didn't know that without this passageway, facing him alone was the real dead end for Luo Qingtong. Now, they were playing slowly. Luo Qingtong sneered. In fact, if not for the fact that she was afraid that some of the powerful attacks in this passageway would harm her, she would have triggered them immediately. Patriarch Hua would definitely not be able to return when he chased after her. But now, she was going to use her power to destroy these powerful traps so that they couldn't be activated. This was to prevent Patriarch Hua from accidentally triggering them. She was really letting him off easy. Luo Qingtong's eyes were cold. Her figure plunged forward, leaving a trace of power in the traps along the way. Rumble. Behind her, the sound of explosions rang out violently. In just an instant, the area behind her was completely covered. Bastard! Patriarch Hua's figure was deeply trapped in those traps and almost couldn't move an inch. He was so angry that he wanted to go crazy. This Yi Zhou had too many tricks up her sleeves and her abilities were too strange. He didn't know who she was. She actually had the ability to move unimpeded in this passageway filled with traps. How did he do it? The Hua family had originally thought that he would be able to see Luo Qingtong's incomparably desperate eyes when he chased after her. He would wait until the enemy was blocked by the activated mechanisms before he could approach and kill the enemy. Unexpectedly, the mechanism had been triggered. However, he was the only one who was stopped. The head of the Hua family was so angry that he immediately unleashed all his strength to withstand the violent attacks. He tore them apart layer by layer and chased after Luo Qingtong. Yi Zhou, don't even think about running away. He gritted his teeth in anger as he stared fixedly at the frail and delicate figure of the youth in front of him. He would rather be injured than let the other party escape. Shwa! Sensing the movement behind her, Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes. Her figure flashed through the passageway, and with a swoosh, she flashed into a left fork that appeared in front of her. At the same time, she raised her hand and released Little Pig from the 9-layered exquisite pagoda. Humph! Luo Qingtong's figure sprinted through the fork while activating the mechanisms along the way. She asked, "How's your strength recovering?" Chapter 1480. Luo Qingtong's eyes were ice cold. If Little Pig could use his power, she would immediately break the seal. She wanted to let Patriarch Hua see who was the unlucky one. It's done. However, there's a special barrier in this underground palace, so I can't reveal my true self here. Little Pig's expression was very gloomy. When he came out of the 9-layered exquisite pagoda, he discovered that Luo Qingtong was being chased by Patriarch Hua. Although he didn't know how she got separated from Yu Huang and the others, Little Pig was still very excited. He finally had a chance to show off his invincible might. However, before he could finish his excitement, he discovered that this underground palace was enveloped by a special barrier. It prevented him from revealing his true self here. Barrier. Luo Qingtong's eyes narrowed slightly. Her figure flitted past a corner of the passageway that appeared in front of her. She leaned against the wall of the passageway and stopped for a moment. She looked at Little Pig and asked, "Can you sense where its power is coming from?" "Yes." Little Pig nodded. Since it was able to sense the spirit power, it was naturally able to tell where it was coming from. Okay. Luo Qingtong's eyes were cold. She sensed that Patriarch Hua's aura was getting closer and closer to the corner along with the traps. She immediately waved her hand. With a swoosh, she drew a spiritual energy map of the Saint Monarch's tomb in the air. "Where is it?" She looked at Little Pig and asked. "Here." Little Pig raised his chubby, round, and pink hoof and pointed at the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb. "It's here." Luo Qingtong looked at the place where the little pig's hoof was pointing at and raised her eyebrows. It was not because of anything else, but because this place was the red dot she saw on the light map on her jade ring. What a coincidence! A mysterious place, barrier's power. Luo Qingtong was a little curious about what was inside. "Let's go. Let's go." Luo Qingtong flicked away the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb and hugged Little Pig in her arms. In an instant, his entire body leapt up. His feet heavily stomped on the wall, and his entire body rushed forward at a high speed. Just as she was about to leap into the air with Little Pig in her arms, a powerful attack came crashing down on the spot where she was standing just a moment ago. Yi Jiu. Patriarch Hua, who was battered by the traps, furiously chased after Yi Jiu. The place where Luo Qingtong was just standing, the attack was launched by him. He must kill this bastard. The Hua family head was mad with anger. He stared at Luo Qingtong's figure and chased after her. He wanted to see how many traps Luo Qingtong could activate in these tunnels. When all the traps' attacks were all destroyed. He wanted Jiu's death. She's to die a miserable death. While Patriarch Hua chased after Luo Qingtong, in another tunnel, Feng Yuan and the others were looking at the dragon snapping stone in front of them with ugly expressions. Evil Dr. Ghost Eye. Feng Yuan couldn't remember how many times he had gritted his teeth and shouted this name in his heart. The other party was too hateful. Chapter 1481. Master, what should I do? She desperately screamed in her heart, afraid that she would really die here. No. She couldn't die. There were still many things she had to do. She had to wash away the humiliation that Luo Qingtong and evil Dr. Ghost Eye had inflicted on her. She had to become the most honorable woman in the world. She had to become the person of destiny that her master spoke of. She absolutely could not die. Master, save me. Shut up. Following Feng Yuan's words, the blue smoke's voice also impressively resounded in her heart. That wisp of green smoke was also very depressed and angry. It had originally chosen Feng Yuan because the color of her strange pupils was extremely high. In the future, it was extremely likely that she would be able to compete for the position of the person of destiny. In addition, her talent and strength were not weak, and her temperament was tough and ruthless enough. Thus, it wanted to train her. It thought that under its guidance, Feng Yuan would be able to quickly reach the peak of the sky spill continent and become the most powerful genius. But it didn't expect that evil Dr. Ghost Eye would appear and suppress it in every aspect. This would put it in an even more desperate situation. Not to mention Feng Yuan, even the blue smoke felt as if it had been slapped in the face. It had lost all face. It angrily shouted, "Open up your mind." Yes. Feng Yuan quickly responded and opened up her mind. With a schwa sound, her eyes glazed over for a moment. Then, the look in her eyes changed, becoming abnormally cold and indifferent. It was as if she was looking down on all living beings as ants. Humph. The blue smoke coldly snorted. After taking control of Feng Yuan's body, it fiercely turned around and rushed towards the spiritual energy storm that was violently attacking from behind. Behind them, the Ouyang family head and the Ouyang family's powerhouses were busy resisting the attack of the spiritual energy storm. However, this passage was specially chosen for them by Luo Qintong. Of the 12 passages, it was the most dangerous, had the most traps, and was also the most powerful. The attacks of the Ouyang family head and the others were all absorbed by the barrier outside the spiritual energy storm. Not only did it not damage the spiritual energy storm ball in the slightest, it even increased its power. Now, the bulging sphere had almost blocked the entire passage. There was no room for them to dodge. Seeing the huge spiritual energy storm getting closer and closer, Ouyang family head and the others felt despair in their hearts. Bastard! Yi Zhou! I won't let you go even if I become a ghost. Ouyang family head was so angry that his eyes bulged. The blue veins on his forehead bulged like earthworms. He looked as scary as a ghost. Right at this moment, Feng Yuan's figure appeared by his side. Scram! When Ouyang family head saw her, he instantly flew into a rage and directly slapped Feng Yuan. If it wasn't for him, how would they have inexplicably offended Yi Zhou? What kind of plan was this? Now, they couldn't even enter the sage monarch's tomb. They were going to die here. If the other party had been more tolerant back then, he wouldn't have made things difficult for Yi Zhou before this. They wouldn't have ended up like this. The Ouyang family head flew into a rage. That slap carried the might of thunder. If it was the previous Feng Yuan, he would definitely be sent flying by this slap. He might even die on the spot. After all, the strength of the patriarchs of the top families was at the sage realm. The strength of the Ouyang family head was one of the best among them. He was already very close to the sage master realm. Chapter 1482. However, it was the green smoke that was controlling Feng Yuan's body at this moment. He looked coldly at the Ouyang family head slap and raised his hand to block it. Bang! With a backhand move, he blasted the Ouyang family head 2 steps back. You! The Ouyang family head and the group of experts beside him all looked at Feng Yuan in shock. How did his strength suddenly become so powerful? The Ouyang family head and the others were shocked, but the green smoke did not care at all. He looked coldly at the huge spiritual energy storm ball rolling over and said coldly, "Let's attack together and destroy it." His strength had been severely damaged and he had been resting in Feng Yuan's body to recover. Even if he forced himself to come out now, there was no way he could completely break the barrier outside the spiritual energy storm. The Ouyang family head and the others came back to their senses when they heard this. No! The Ouyang family head's face was gloomy and he said coldly, "We just tried. Even if we attack with all our strength, the barrier will not budge." Feng Yuan's strength suddenly became very powerful, but even so, if they joined forces, they might not be able to break the barrier outside the spiritual energy storm. Judging from the strength they had just used, only the strength of a holy king and above, close to the strength of a venerable realm expert, could break the barrier of the spiritual energy storm, attack the core, and destroy the spiritual energy storm. On their side, even Feng Wan, whose strength had suddenly skyrocketed, did not have the ability to do so. Humph. I don't need it. The green smoke's voice was cold. In the next second, he waved his hand fiercely. With a swoosh, screams sounded. The people of the Huo family who were originally blocking the entrance of the passage and crying were suddenly pulled over. In the next second, they were thrown toward the spiritual energy storm. Explode. As the voice of the green smoke sounded, the bodies of all the Huo family members who had been thrown into the spiritual energy storm ball instantly swelled up violently and then exploded. Bang bang bang. No one knew what the green smoke did in their bodies, but the power of the combined explosion of the Huo clan's disciples was so great that the barrier outside the spirit energy storm shook violently. Attack! As the cold voice of the green smoke rang out, the Ouyang family head and the rest of the people who were stunned instantly came back to their senses and hurriedly attacked the huge spiritual energy storm ball. Because Qing Yan's next words were, "If you can't break this spiritual energy storm ball, then continue." The rest of the Huo clan's people were all trembling. They quickly followed the Ouyang clan's people and attacked the huge spiritual energy storm ball crazily. They were afraid that if they couldn't break the barrier of the spiritual energy storm ball, they would end up like those people in front of them. The crowd attacked madly. Rumble. Under their attacks, the speed of the spiritual energy storm ball slowed down. The light of the barrier outside was also gradually weakening. Bang bang bang. The green smoke's eyes were cold. Without hesitation, he pulled up another group of Huo clan's disciples and threw them toward the spiritual energy storm ball. This time, the light of the barrier finally dimmed. Bang! Chapter 1483. Let's go. The green smoke's voice was cold. He pulled his hand out of the huge spiritual energy storm ball and dispersed the spiritual energy in it. Then, he led everyone into the depths of the tunnel. Every time he reached a place, he threw the surviving members of the Huo family to the front and allowed them to detonate the traps and clear the path ahead. His cruel and ruthless methods made the people of the Ouyang family shudder with fear. Even the Ouyang family head and other strong people of the Ouyang family couldn't help but shudder when they saw his methods. The other party's methods were a little too ruthless. However, in the current situation, this was indeed the fastest and safest way to get through this wrong tunnel. These people of the Huo family shouldn't blame them. If they wanted to blame someone, blame Yi Zhou. She was the one who caused them to die here. It had nothing to do with them. When you see the Huo family head, you know what to say, right? The Ouyang family head looked at the people of the Ouyang family beside him and asked. Yes. The people of the Ouyang family nodded. It was Yi Zhou's plan that caused the deaths of the Huo family. Our Ouyang family also suffered heavy losses and couldn't save them. The people of the Ouyang family naturally knew the intention of the Ouyang family head's question. They definitely couldn't let the Huo family head know that they used the Huo family to scout the way to their deaths. The best way was to put all the blame on Luo Qingtong. Anyway, it was indeed because of her that they were trapped in this wrong tunnel. It wouldn't be wrong to say that she caused the deaths of the Huo family. Good. Very good. The Ouyang family head smiled sinisterly. Yi Zhou. Just you wait. When I get out of here, I will make sure you die a horrible death. While the Ouyang family head was venting his anger, Luo Qingtong had already led the Huo family head to a place not far from the red dot. This is the place. Luo Qingtong looked at the straight tunnel in front of her. At the end of the passageway was a tightly shut bronze door. The dark mottled door looked very old. A faintly discernible aura of the vast expanse emanated from it. This was the location of the red dot marked on the jade ring. At the same time, Little Pig sensed the source of the special spirit formation that enveloped the tomb. The bloody light in Luo Qingtong's eyes swept around. Her eyes reflected the three-dimensional shape of the straight passage. As far as his visual technique could see, he did not see any formations or mechanisms. This passageway, which was about 100 meters long, was empty. It was unlike the passageways that Luo Qingtong had passed through before, which had hidden mechanisms. This passageway was unusually clean. Statues of ferocious beasts stood all around, squatting on both sides of the passage. The statues of the ferocious beasts were about the height of a person. Their faces were ferocious and ferocious. They were placed all the way to the entrance of the bronze gate. It looked like they were guarding something. It was a magnificent sight. But there wasn't a single hidden passage. Luo Qingtong looked at this incomparably clean passageway, then looked at the end of the passageway where there was no other path except for a large door. Her brows slightly furrowed. Without any mechanisms, what would the Huo family head behind her do? There was no obstruction in this 100-meter passageway. It was enough for him to catch up to her. And there was no other path at the end of the passageway. Luo Qingtong's brows were tightly knitted. Chapter 1484. Suddenly, there was a violent commotion behind her. Ha! Yi Zhou, you can't escape, right? Family head Huo appeared at the end of the tunnel behind Luo Qingtong with a ferocious expression. He saw that there was only one path in front of Luo Qingtong. And after that path, there was only one door. There was no other path. He immediately started laughing maniacally. His expression was extremely ferocious. He endured the attacks from the traps and rushed toward Luo Qingtong like a wild beast. He wanted Luo Qingtong dead. Sensing the commotion behind her, Luo Qingtong's brows furrowed even tighter. At this moment, her eyes suddenly narrowed. She fixed her gaze on the ferocious beast statues. These statues, Luo Qingtong's eyes flashed slightly. Just as she was about to take a closer look, Little Pig's voice rang in her mind at this moment. Charge! Hearing Little Pig's words, Luo Qingtong's eyes flashed. She didn't ask anything and directly dashed forward. Rumble! As Luo Qingtong dashed forward, family head Huo's figure also appeared not far behind her. He directly launched an attack at her. It just so happened that it brushed past Luo Qingtong. Bang! The attack fiercely smashed into the wall behind Luo Qingtong, shaking the entire tunnel. In the next second, family head Huo's figure caught up. Yi Zhou! Don't run if you dare. His voice was thunderous as he chased after the young man who was flying in front of him. There was no path ahead. Luo Qingtong was seeking her own death. Let's see where she can run to now. When I catch her, I'll definitely skin her alive to vent the hatred in my heart. Luo Qingtong's figure flashed rapidly. Almost at the instant family head Huo launched his attack, she had already dashed forward several meters. But family head Huo's figure was also very fast. Without the obstruction of the secret passageway, he instantly accelerated after dashing into the tunnel. His saint-level strength allowed him to catch up to Luo Qingtong in an instant. Bastard! Let's see how you'll die. Family head Huo's expression was sinister as he looked at the youth's figure that was almost within reach. He raised his hand and raised one of his palms. The surrounding spiritual energy of heaven and earth rumbled violently and gathered above his palm. Boundless, violent and vast energy surrounded his palm, constantly pulsing and surging. The energy within it was extremely vigorous and powerful. With the Huo family head's strength, there was no way forward, and there were no obstacles in the way. The power of his palm was enough to block the entire passage. At that time, Luo Qingtong would no longer be able to escape. And Luo Qingtong's figure was half a distance and Luo Qingtong's was Hua. It was absolutely impossible in a short time. Humph. As Luo Qingtong's voice rang out, Little Pig's voice also sounded anxiously. Okay. For symbols of heaven and earth, universe black and yellow. Little Pig meditated seriously in Luo Qingtong's arms. One of Little Pig's two front hooves was facing up, the other was facing down. Then, he suddenly formed an extremely complicated and mysterious mark in front of Little Pig's chubby, round belly. In the name of the supreme of all beasts, your souls rise. Chapter 1485. Following Little Pig's voice, in an instant, boom. 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 Around Luo Qingtong and the Huo family's patriarch, the rows of ferocious beast statues that were squatting on both sides of the passageway cracked open. The layers of soil on their bodies receded, revealing their true forms. It turned out that these statues were all real ferocious beasts. However, it was sealed here by a special power and turned into a statue. Now that they were awakened by Little Pig, they immediately came back to life. Roar! Those ferocious beasts suddenly roared toward the sky, their roars shaking the heavens. Naturally, the ferocious beasts that were captured and sealed here were not weak. These ferocious beasts were all at the saint rank. As soon as they woke up, they immediately pounced toward Luo Qingtong and the others. To be precise, they pounced toward the Huo family's patriarch behind her. What? The Huo family's patriarch was shocked when he saw these ferocious beast statues that suddenly woke up and felt the vast power coming from them. What's going on? How did these ferocious beast statues wake up so quickly? He didn't have time to think too much and directly sent a palm strike toward a saint-rank ferocious beast that was pouncing toward him. Bang! The saint-rank ferocious beast was sent flying by the powerful force contained in his palm. However, even more ferocious beasts arrived in front of him. There were no less than 100 ferocious beast statues in this passageway. Under Little Pig's command, they all rushed toward the Huo family's patriarch. Boom! Boom! The Huo family's patriarch's figure was instantly blocked by a pile of ferocious beasts. At the same time, Little Pig hurriedly urged Luo Qingtong, "Quick! Let's go through that bronze door." He used the supreme pressure in his soul to awaken these sealed ferocious beasts. However, the truth was that those ferocious beasts were all sealed there to guard the bronze gate. Why were there no traps in this passageway? It was because these ferocious beast statues were guarding it. Little Pig temporarily summoned the souls of these ferocious beasts and made them listen to his commands. However, most of his power was sealed, so he could only use a little of it. These ferocious beasts could only listen to it for a limited time. Luo Qingtong had to enter the bronze gate as soon as possible. This was to prevent the souls of these ferocious beasts from once again obeying the power of the seal after leaving. At that time, Luo Qingtong would also suffer together with Patriarch Hua. Got it. Luo Qingtong had already noticed the strangeness of these ferocious beast statues. Therefore, when Little Pig told her to charge forward, she didn't have any doubts or hesitation. As soon as Little Pig finished speaking, she had already dashed to the bronze door, pulled it open, and rushed in. Buzz!